The real question we're asking ourselves is this actually recording? Or am I going to have to stop it again to make sure that it actually is? Well, hello, and welcome back to what I am officially calling the anti-Brainrot series, because at this point, I think we all just need to get better at being able to sit for longer periods of time, have real conversations. You feel me? You feel me? You're tapped in right now, aren't you? Yeah, we should be able to do this in real life as well, you guys. Let's start here as a community, okay? As a family. And if I'm being really honest with you right now, this is something that is very interesting to me, especially at this day and age. The fact that I even feel like this is something that's actually worth people's time. Me literally just talking to a camera, helping to keep your attention for this amount of time. Like, I'm the adult Barney. And I don't fuck with that Negros. Like, bro, I don't even like Barney. Like, I don't know what about... I was more of a Clifford the Big Red Dog kind of girl. I was more of a Wonder Pets, we're on our way. I don't know what the fuck it was about Barney that I just didn't like, but I didn't like his beady ass eyes. And that's saying something, because I watch the Teletubbies. So for you to freak me out when I watch the Teletubbies is saying something. Anyways, ADHD brain. Going back to the topic at hand. I have deemed 2026... Hold on. Because you're seeing cuts in real life right now. This is what happens when you feel like you've been sitting in the same spot too long and you need to switch shit up. I have deemed 2026 as the year of literally just making anti-brain rot content, because that's some of my favorite shit. I personally love a podcast, but I don't think I prefer non-visual content, but I also feel like I don't feel like editing all the time. Neither should we feel like we have to edit everything all the time. Meanwhile, you're about to see me plug in this damn laptop, because we are filming on a laptop. That's how real this shit is getting, you guys. Not to say that I won't ever edit any of these videos, but for the greater meaning of me being able to just look back on things, and for everybody to have some level of like testing their capacity to watch long form content without having to go switch. I see you, put your fucking phone down. I see you going on TikTok, on Instagram, guilty. Every 5 minutes, that's when you know you have a problem. Screen time is relative. The real thing is when you can't remember the last thing you saw with your real eyes in real life, because all that's flittering in your head is content, okay? That being said, you guys, let me get closer to you. Hold on. God damn it. Fuck. Okay, hold on. I'm almost there, okay? Welcome back to a series that I'm calling the anti-brain rot series, where we're gonna sit, we're gonna talk, we're gonna have some kikis, some ha-has, and if we're lucky, we'll even get into some real cerebral shit, because that's how my brain works. I jump between different topics, and you know, there's some level of bilateral thinking and possibly neurodivergence that you just have to be rolling with. You just have to roll with me on this one, okay? We're going to get to a point by the end of this where hopefully we can sit through, maybe, I'm aiming for like 30 minutes. I'm going to be really honest with you. That's about all I have on a daily basis, and I plan to be posting these pretty often. If you're rolling with me on this, and if you're fucking with it, if you like it, great. If you don't, leave. I'm serious about that. Get out. I have enough problems. Actually, no. I'm trying to Cynthia Erivo my ass into a growth mindset. I am full of abundance. Problems are relative. But you know what isn't relative? Money. Money is necessary at times. So realistically speaking, that's one of the things that we're going to talk about during this current anti-brain rot episode, where we're going to get into the beauty of planning for the new year. 2026 is coming, people, and we can't afford to be the same people we were before. So we have to actually begin building fucking Bob the Builder Tetrising that shit the year before. It is currently, as we speak, see how I don't know what day it is. Notice how I don't know what day it is. It is currently Monday, December 15th at 12:19 p.m. It has just snowed. Matter of fact, let me show you the snow. Let me show you the snow real quick. If you can see it, hold on. You can't really see that, but just imagine that snow out there. Oh, you can kind of see it on the branch up there. You see that? You see? Just kidding. Okay. Anyways, the current, what was I talking about? The current goal. Hold on. You're up a bit too high, sweetie. The current goal that I'm working on right now is just breaking my mind of systems and processes that are holding me back from the goals that we previously talked about in the earlier episode. Most of which I think revolved around some sense of like, oh, these are kind of just generalized, like fleeting things that I want to have happen in 2026 and stuff like that. Now we're on to the, okay, Bob the Buildering. Okay. That being said, we have to continue to look at the concept that we're kind of coming back to. And if we keep coming back to this concept, that concept would be, I said concept 5 times in a row. Don't even worry about it. That's not for you to worry about. That's for me to worry about post-edit, because I have to decide if I'm going to edit this shit or not. I don't want to do that, if I'm being really honest. I just want these to be me and the camera, because that is a part of the goal. Back to the concept. Okay. The concept is habit building. Now, you may be saying to yourself, oh, I have habits. I'm sure you do. And half that shit is killing you actively on a daily basis or causing anxiety and depression. And girl, I get it. Girl, I get it. I'm not saying I'm not on Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. I don't, and I never will. Frankly, I've put my foot down about that because I studied abroad in China, and I was there, and I saw the way that people were addicted. And it's not even the same kind of TikTok. China has a real handle on what they're putting on TikTok, but to the extent that, like, the way that people are glued to their phones, I already know that I have a semi-addictive personality that I'm trying to break. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not going to do that to myself, because TikTok seems like it might be a little bit too personal, in the sense that, like, I already feel like Instagram has kind of dug its claws into me. And I wasn't on Instagram before like this. Like, scrolling, like, actually on your, like, discovery page, I wasn't doing all that. I was posting, I was looking cute, I was traveling, doing whatever, but I wasn't on the discovery page doing all this extra shit. That's a habit that builds over time. Now, we're trying to break these habits or implement new ones. Now, I'm sure everybody has said this at least once in their life. I'm gonna change. Well, bitch, how are you going to change? How are you going to change? How are you going to change if you don't change? That, people, that is the question at hand that we're all asking. How are you going to change if you don't change? Now, I'm really coming to a point, which I mentioned in the last video. After a certain point, if you're saying that you want change and nothing is changing, that just means you haven't hit your breaking point yet. You haven't hit your breaking point yet, and that's fine, because everybody has to make it to their breaking point at some level or point. Now, if you are also in an interesting kind of like liminal space where you know that you don't want to have to hit that breaking point before you start actually implementing change, this is where we start implementing certain tactics for habit building and gradual change that can actually play a big part in your life, right? Now, I don't know how much everybody's previous understanding of change is, or to what extent they've done the self-help book, because girl is gender neutral in this scenario. Not me. Girl is gender neutral in this scenario. There's a level to this where I don't know what everybody's reference or point or place in terms of their self-growth point is. So honestly, comment below if you have any general level of like awareness or resources, books. If you've been in that self-help pit, comment below the least favorite thing that you have about that fucking pit in the first place, because I know what my least favorite thing is. My least favorite thing is the illusion of getting people to think that they're helping themselves by trying to fix themselves. I don't think that that's actually accurate. I think, at least for me, and what I've learned about myself, is that there's no amount of like reading the book or like going into it thinking, oh, you know, I want to change, that's actually going, what the fuck is my hair doing? Focus. There's no level of that that's going to actually get me to do what I need to do. For change to be built, you actually have to do the thing. Or, and this is an important part of my process, you have to reach your breaking point quicker. In this regard, it's in terms of like habit building and stuff like that, I think it really is just like the nature of starting to want something to change for yourself in your life, where you have to figure out what it is that is the drive behind that change, because that is going to be the thing that ultimately keeps you going, right? So in my regard, for example, over a year ago, I decided, you know what, I'm done with this up and down game of like, I want to lose weight, I actually want to change. Guess what? I sat on that shit for 6 months. You know, doing the whole thing that we all do, where we bookmark the things that we say that we're gonna, you know, do or change or buy to start our journey or whatever. And then you legitimately are like building up in your head possibly this mental subliminal kind of space where you think that you're actively making change by putting things away or to the side in order to begin implementing that change when you're ready. Well, turns out my breaking point was quite apparent. Quite apparent. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was having problems with going into like fitting rooms and feeling like, okay, things aren't really fitting me. Well, on one fated day, or I walked into a godforsaken place known as Zara. Because at this point, I don't even really be buying clothes from these places. I just go in and I'm like, I should try and look at like what my style might be, right? At that point, I walked into a fucking Zara. And I tried on a white shirt. Or at least I thought I was going to try on a white shirt. I get into the dressing room. This white shirt damn near sent me into a fucking panic attack. It was so hard to not only get on, but even worse, to get off. I literally was so afraid that I was going to have to ask a random ass stranger to pull me out of this shirt with my titties out. No, because this is an important part. This is an important part of the change. When I say hitting a breaking point, like there's this liminal space in between, and then there's the breaking point where you literally just have to change something because you can't keep dealing with like the way you have been. I was so afraid in that moment that I almost went into a full-fledged panic attack, because I was like, oh my God, this is actually starting to affect like not only like my weight, but my discomfort with my body, in the sense of like, I won't, you know, size up, or I feel like I want something to fit me so bad that I'm trying on shit that, one, is just a bit too small for me, frankly, and two, is just genuinely not even stylistically what I want, but what I feel I should be fitting into, right? I am trying so hard to fit into this mold of a person that I think I should be, even though I'm not putting in the effort that I really should be putting into to discover where I could actually be growing incrementally, right, towards a goal. Another big thing is having goals, right? I didn't set necessarily a goal for myself in terms of like this larger idea of like losing weight or being able to find my personal style. I walk into this Zara dressing room damn near have a panic attack, and truthfully did have a panic attack. Like, I had a panic attack. I also found out that I was in the men's dressing rooms for some reason. Hey, why aren't there both women's and men's on each floor? No one told me that. I didn't know I had to walk all the way back downstairs in order to find a dressing room that didn't have a line. That doesn't make sense. Anyways, it took all of that for me to finally reach that breaking point that said, you know, and this was based out of discomfort rather than even fear or some level of like hatred towards myself. This was sheer ass. I literally almost died in there. And it sounds like I'm making fun of the situation, but when I tell you that day, something snapped in my brain that was like, I can't keep living like this. That was a breaking point, right? What we're trying to get to prior to that, especially in this video, is the idea of habit building. And where your breaking point starts is likely where you've gone too far ignoring things that could have been very small, incremental, day-to-day practices with rewiring your brain. Now, I say all this to say, bringing back up this idea of like, I don't know what everybody is going through. I don't know where you're at in this process, but I know where the fuck I broke. I know where I broke. And bitch, that was a very like eye-opening day. It was. Because you can only go but so long telling yourself that, oh, this is fine. I'll work around this, completely ignoring other shit. Not even putting in like the smaller habits to build yourself up to a certain point and have that not break you at some point. Now, this is all concepts that feeds into a lot of what you'll hear from a lot of self-help books, is that you have to build towards it, right? What I'm realizing now is that you also have to implement that on a day-to-day basis. Even this as a process is me getting used to posting on the internet. It's not even to that point even. You might not see this shit for 2 months. You might not see this shit for a whole 2, 3, 5, who knows how long. But the fact that I'm even going through the process of filming it is a start of the habit building, right? I've never really had a problem with the filming though. This is not the hard part. It's the posting that I needed to get to. Now, the habit that I'm building now is that I'm not going to hyper edit most of these videos. If anything, you might see a cut here or there. You're going to see, you know, a title sequence here or there because I like playing around with post editing. I like stuff like that. But the habit that I'm building is that I'm removing the barrier to entry in terms of the goal that I have, which is posting more. The more that you remove the barriers to entry and the more that you begin building upon the ease of the thing that you're trying to achieve, the more you'll do it every day, the more you'll implement it on a daily basis, the more that you'll embody that. It is less about the habit itself and it's more about the embodiment. Now, listen. I know I'm tweaking, right? You see me, I'm coming on here. I'm a stranger from the internet. You don't know my ass. I'm gonna be honest with you right now, 2026, if you're not fed up by now, like if you haven't hit that breaking point by now, I'm gonna pray for you. Because I understand that not everybody moves at the same pace, but there's just so much that's happening in the world that I feel like it causes more of us to reflect on these things that we previously wouldn't have kind of like focused on. A lot of these things, even in my personal opinion, are more like personal endeavors that we didn't put as much energy or focus onto, that we're now waking up to the fact that we can't keep living the same fucking way. If you really think that shit, you have to start embodying excuse me. You have to start embodying the very thing that is the basis of your fear. You have to start putting yourself in the line of fire. Now, how do we do this? You don't have to do everything right away. Everybody is going to tell you that you need to start doing this and start doing that. I'm going to tell you right now, the first thing that you need to start with is a level of silence. Maybe what you need is to really be able to sit in silence with yourself for 5 minutes a day. And when I say this, I'm saying this out of the heart of building a routine that also allows you to hear your inner voice and what you really want. That's what I've come to terms with now. We're preparing for 2026. The inner voice thing is so real. It is imperative, if not the only thing that really matters at the end of the day. Because if you can't hear accurately what you want for yourself, then you aren't going to be able to act accurately in a way that's going to fulfill you in the way that you want. I say all of this knowing good and well that, again, most people just haven't hit that breaking point yet, which is why you'll watch this video, you'll go back into your little cocoon of whatever you were doing, and you won't change anything. But here's what I'm going to tell you right now. This is the real thing that got me. The same amount of time that you could have been giving this every day, you give to shit that isn't fulfilling you. And on top of that, if you incrementally increase the amount of little things that you do that get you closer to that goal on a daily basis, you will be further along within a year on that goal than you would be in 5 if you did nothing. So I'm just saying, it's like, even if it's the tiniest thing that you can even functionally imagine, it gets you closer in a shorter amount of time. I don't know the math on this, but it's like compound interest. It's like, genuinely, sometimes it's just about starting earlier. It's not even about how much you're putting into that bitch. Like, it's how you need to start, even if it's tiny, because the habit is really going to be the thing that propels you forward in the end. It's not going to necessarily be the level of praise or the validation from reaching the goal itself, but it is literally that looking back on that time, there will be more time behind you that has been leading you up to something that is going to get you there than there is time behind you that was complete dead space. It was nothing. That being said, we've covered the topic of just starting. That is just starting. Now, 2026, I want to start this, I want to do that. Maybe you sat for 5 minutes every day for a month and you allowed yourself to hear your inner voice. I want you to drop reality as a whole and ask yourself, what have I shown myself that I don't trust myself with? Self-trust is a huge thing. It is by far one of the biggest things, other than hearing your inner voice. Self-trust is, what have I repeatedly, daily, all the time let myself down with? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself, what is it that I have not been actually like moving on for myself? Now, me, somebody who undiagnosed ADHD for years, they tested me, I got retested. It's been realigned with the fact that now I have definitely got something going on up there, bitch. The real issue that I dealt with for the majority of my life was feeling like I wasn't showing up for myself, but I couldn't figure out how to connect the want and the actual action when it comes to showing up for myself. What I found now is that most of the time, the most imperative thing is literally and almost exclusively just not going to the point of thinking more than you act. It is literally, it's the weirdest thing. It's like, that's so simple. But it's like, the past me, for example, would have thought, oh, well, who's going to want to watch this? The past me, post-edit, would be like, oh, but I should add this, or I should do that, or I should do this, or I should do that. The new me is like, I'm posting this bitch whether I like it or not. I'm putting things up whether I like it or not. Like, again, there might be like some level of like little edits here or there, but it's about the habit. It's about the habit. At this point, that's all it is about. That's all it's about. Because I kept telling myself for years, oh, when I like myself more, I don't like looking at myself when I'm editing. I don't like doing this when I'm already stressed about other things in my life. I don't enjoy editing as a whole. Who told you you had to edit? Who told you there was one way to start the goal? Who told you there was one way to start the habit? let you think about that for a second. Because you have convinced yourself that there are rules that do not exist in terms of building the habit itself. There are no rules. The only rule is start, right? Now, past that point sounds easier than it is. I'm going to bring up one of my favorite writings in terms of habit building, which is Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't read this book, don't. Listen to it. If I'm being really honest with you, even the process of going through an entire book, especially for people who, if you're like me and you're dealing with some level of neurodiversity or just genuinely like attention span wise, aren't able to keep things abreast in your mind for that long, literally just listen to some of these things from this book. I would say number one thing that's helped me as somebody who does have like a bit of a brain that can go all over the place, and just like at times I'm a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? I need a little bit of like stimulation in a way that other people might not, right? When I tell you habit stacking has been one of the grandest goals, not even goals, it has been one of the greatest tools that I've learned. And I learned this from James Clear's book. So basically, if you're going to start habit stacking, what you're going to do now is you're going to tell yourself, okay, what do I already do on a day-to-day basis? And what seemingly isn't that difficult for me to do? A lot of us get up in the morning and we use the toilet, for example. Let's say you get up in the morning and you use the toilet. I've been studying Korean for years now. For a while, I was getting up in the mornings. I would go and I'd have a cup of tea or something. I knew that I looked forward to that cup of tea every day. There's also a level to habit stacking that is positive reinforcement or association with a task. Find things that you already know that you like to do or that you enjoy, and then implement a system with which you can do both at once, okay? This being said, you're going to stack the new habit that you're trying to build on top of the thing that you already do. I go in there, I sit on the toilet. Maybe my goal is to read more. On the toilet in the morning, you read one page of a book. I don't care if it's on your phone. I don't care if it's in a magazine. I don't care what it is. You read one page of that book when you're on the toilet in the morning. Or maybe you brush your teeth and you just want to interact with more like intellectually based, peer-reviewed, backed up information from literature, books, other articles, things like that. Let's say your habit stacking is you go to brush your teeth in the morning, you listen to, NPR's Life Kit or something like that. It's a podcast, but it still has, they're bringing in specialists. They have information on these things and they're talking about it. Let's say you want to habit stack that, but you want to do it with finances. Let's say you find a podcast or something that's related to finance. You listen to that for 5 minutes in the morning while you're getting dressed and ready. It might not seem, I'm not going to hold you. In the beginning, you have to find ways to self-validate. You have to find ways to align things that already are a part of your routine with ways that you want to change in order to train your brain to not only do those things, but to crave that shit, right? Habit stacking for me looks like I scroll on Instagram pretty often. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. I do. But part of the habit stack that I've built for myself is that when I'm scrolling on Instagram, I told myself that I have to be walking. When I tell you that shit has changed my life, imagine if every time you're doom scrolling, you're having to interact with a form of physical activity. As dystopian as it may sound, it is very useful in terms of my overall goal, which was to be more active. Even though I might be scrolling on occasion for too long, I'm not going to pretend like it's not still a problem in its own regard. But it is now a habit that is built into me that I crave walking. So much so that I bought a walking pad. When I'm listening to YouTube or when I'm winding down from the day, it's no longer like a feat for me to get myself to do this. This feels relaxing now. Do you understand? This feels like a part of my routine that genuinely just fits in with the relaxation of the day. It's not because it always felt that way. It's not because it always felt that way, but it's something that I've built out for myself for it to be aligned with that, right? I'm not a professional, nor do I really ever plan to be in this particular space of like habit building and all of that. I just think that at a certain point, before we even establish all the other shit, you have to have the perspective of what's not working anymore. And this is also something that I brought up in the last video. What's not working anymore in 2026 is us telling ourselves that even the tiny things don't amount to something. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Wherever you left that energy, it's just being funneled into other things. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's not that it's not possible. It's that you are funneling it into other things. There's other obvious reasons that you might need to recompartmentalize your brain around what you can and can't do at certain times. Time restrictions, family life, work, I understand. But even with that, there's some level to this where you're lying to yourself. Or even if you're not lying to yourself, there's some level to this where you're letting fear run everything that you do. You're letting excuses get in the way of you actually building some level of self-trust. Self-trust doesn't look like reading a book for 3 hours every week. You know what I mean? Self-trust can look like you getting up in the morning and going to brush your teeth and saying, I'm going to listen to this podcast on finance for 5 minutes. What you're building there with yourself in that self-trust is routine, is habits. Now, reapply. There may be some level to this where you're thinking, oh, well, I don't do that. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't do this. Those excuses are coming from a severe want to not change. That brings you to stage 2, which is where I was at, where you're going to reach a breaking point. And if you don't, you have to be fine with the fact that this is your life. I'm gonna let you sit with that again. I'm gonna let you sit with that again. There comes a certain point where the complaints, where the, oh, I just can't, and the maybe tomorrows, and the, oh, well, this is that. Or this is how it is. It is what it is. I get it. I do. I've been there. But I'm telling you right now, and most people will say this, most people who regret a lot of things too will say this, if you don't ever allow that breaking point to kind of frame the sacrifices, the kind of mental jumps that you might need to make in order for there to be genuine progress, you will be held in a mental prison until you die. And if you are okay with that, I understand. Now, obviously, this is excluding certain genuine, like, societal pressures that some people are genuinely facing and can't get help with, or financial pressures that you need to work through or can't really, change right now in that regard. But it's not exclusionary to the extent that you're telling me that you aren't willing, and this is for the people who just genuinely aren't willing to even wake up to the fact that they want change. That's the thing. There's a lot of us who are just like, this is fine, or it is what it is, but you won't allow yourself to want the change and to actually begin looking at how you can make that change. The point to be made with this is that if you are not at that point, then come back to this video when you are. And come back to the series, because I'm going to tell you right now that no matter where I am in the next year or so after 2026, I have made this a habit. That is the only goal that I have. And if you're okay with not changing, if you're fine with that, that is completely your right. The real question you have to ask yourself is, are you going to be okay with that when you're lying in your deathbed? Not to be that person. I'm sorry, but that is the final reality. That is the final reality. Whether or not you gain exactly what you want out of the experience, are you willing to continue living your life knowing that you, not anybody else, not all these external factors, weren't even really willing to bet on yourself first. You didn't actually try. And that is the hard part. Not even if you try and you fail or anything happens after that. The fact that you aren't trying, even in the granular sense, is the exact reason that you're not where you want to be. Because the granular shit is what matters. It isn't the big shit. It's not the end of the road. It's the journey. We've all heard this bullshit. We've all heard this. Despite hearing it, where are you right now, bitch? Where are you? This might seem aggressive, but I'm talking to like myself. I'm talking to other people that I know. I'm in my head thinking like the me a couple years ago wouldn't have even had this conversation with myself even, let alone whoever sees this. But do you really want to move into another year? And here's my thing, another year with the knowingness that you want to change, even if it's on a granular scale, and yet the fear to not even act on it in even the smallest space, simply because you're afraid it won't amount to anything visible. I'm like, I get it. I do. I like to see the change. I do. But this isn't about the change being actualized in reality. It's about it being actualized in your brain. That's the shit that we're gonna have to get into in another video, because that's the woo-woo shit people don't want to talk about. The woo-woo shit, but you have to. You have to, because it doesn't start with the physical. That shit isn't gonna be the thing that keeps you going. Because things are bound to go wrong. There's going to be shit that doesn't work out. And not to mention, you could lose it all. It could all disappear in a day. As anyone will tell you, a lot of people, especially in America, Jesus Christ, are one day away from a paycheck away, from homelessness, from insecurity, from some level of like squander. Yeah. That's a reality for a lot of people. But the fact that you in your mind aren't even willing to bet on yourself is the first problem that you have to get over, the first hump that you need to levy over in order for anything to really change. Because if you're not there yet, that just means you don't actually believe that it's possible for you. And that means that the world has gotten to you. And are you gonna let these bitches win? Are you gonna let these bitches win? I think the fuck not. And that being said, have a great day. This has been In Theory.